Printcess. We have the 3D Printcess Charlotte here today, and we've also got Charlotte's 3D printer, Stella. She named it Stella. This is an Ender 3. It is her printer. She won it at a maker fair. It was a door prize. So she won this. It was in October last year. She won the printer, and we went to a workshop at the local makerspace and assembled it there, which was pretty fun. She did most of the work herself. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to put together another one. We've got a brand new one right here in the box. This one hasn't even been opened yet. We're going to go ahead and open it up and do the assembly on it. The assembly on these isn't that difficult. It's called a kit, but it's not really a kit. It's just kind of, I'd say, more disassembled for shipping. Most of the more difficult assemblies already been done and calibrated. And she's already done one before, so I'm going to be helping her out, but hopefully we'll let her do most of the work and she'll show you how to do it. Right?
Nope.
Nope. But you put one together, you already know how to.
No,
So we're going to get Stella out of the way, and then we're going to open up this box and we'll show you what's inside, and we'll show you what's involved in putting one together. Sound like fun?
Maybe.
Okay. This is a project. It's going to take anywhere from, it depends on how fast you are. They aren't difficult, but it's going to take, set aside at least a couple hours. It may take you a little longer, it may take you a little less. Depending on the age of your kids. The Princess is 7 now, so she's all grown up. But you may want to break it up into kind of shorter segments of time so they don't get bored. With older kids, I'd say, depending on their technical ability, with a little bit of assistance, they could do the whole assembly themselves. I mean, it's not really that difficult. And the instructions are pretty good. But with the younger kid, you at least want to supervise and help them out a little bit. So we'll go ahead and get this opened up, and then we'll start putting it together. We'll move to a little bit better camera angle here so you can see what's going on. We're going to go ahead and open up the box. See what's in here. Just remember, this is very important. Your printer is afraid of wet.
My daddy's always silly.
All right. So here is an Ender 3. Got our instructions. We don't need no stinking instructions.
I think so.
We've got our couple different assemblies in here. This is the actual let me pull these extrusions out first. Here's some of the extrusions. This is the actual kind of the main part of the printer, the print bed. Yeah, we got a screw it. One of these wheels have popped off, but nothing big. Print bed just didn't look level. Got our print bed. This does have a removable surface on it. It's kind of nice. Set that over here. And as you can see, a lot of this is already put together. So there's not a lot of assembly on these parts. These parts are already put together. It's just going to be a matter of putting kind of the different parts of the printer itself together. Here's our power supply. It's our control panel. And we got another layer. They've changed the packaging a little bit since the last time I assembled one of these. Some more extrusions. Part of spool holder pieces. Z-axis motor. Print scraper. Power cord. Then you got all your boxes and bags of hardware and other parts here. And that's everything in the box. Let's get this box out of the way. And we will go to the instructions. All right. Okay. Now the instructions on here are pretty simple. They come on one sheet like that. front and back. And they're relatively straightforward. Mostly pictorial. There's not a whole lot to read. Start out. Now, it's having you start out step 1. You see what it has us get here? That's the base of the printer. It's this piece. Right here. And then we need from these bags, and all the hardware is pretty nicely organized in these bags. Little snippers. All the tools you need for assembly come in a little package in there also, which is kind of handy. And then all your hardware is right here. So it's telling us we need pieces 15 and 16, and then we need the base, which is part number 2. Now the reason this is all up like this is because we got 2 of our wheels off, so I'm gonna put those back on just to get out of the way. These are leveling wheels, and we'll do that later. That's for leveling the bed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know how to do that, don't you?
No.
Yeah, you do.
No.
You've already done a video about that.
No.
There. I'll just hold that on there for now while we're assembling, keep them out of the way. I got it. Tough to get this one started. Let's try this. There we go. All right. So 15 and 16, those are the 2 uprights. Those are, I believe, these ones here. Yep. 2 bigger extrusions. We're gonna go ahead and open those up. All right. Now these 2 extrusions are similar but not quite the same. They have some different holes drilled in them. So you got to kind of pay a little bit of attention to what's going on. If you look at the instructions, it'll show you, and I'll show a close-up of the instructions later to show what you're looking for. But on one of these, if you flip it over, there's a shorter distance and a longer distance between 2 drilled holes. Let me make sure I've got the correct ones here. All right, so this one here is part 15. This one here is part 16. So just pay attention to what's on there. And it shows you on here, you want the shorter side down. On this one, you want the shorter side down. So we've got that correct. And then the holes go inside, so towards the print surface. So just make sure you get those assembled in the correct way. If you don't, you got to go all the way back and take it apart again, and that's certainly no fun. So we need 4 M5 by 45. So you want to find some M5 by 45 screws in here. They should be labeled. So we're going to want M6, is it 4? Oh, there we go. M5 25. All right, so these are the ones we'll need. You want to open that? You need help. All right, there you go. Just put them out there on the table. And then all we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting those, and there's pre-drilled holes in the bottom here. Take this piece here, put it on there, and you want to get your tool out there. You need think it's the big one, but we'll see. Oops. That one there, yep. So it is the big one. I'm going to go ahead and get it started a little bit here. Oh, you know what? These are the M5 by 25s, right? We wanted 45. Helps to read the instructions closer. So this is the ones we want. M5 by 45. That wouldn't have been long enough. But all right. There we go. Got our lock washer on there. That'll make a difference. All right, see that hole there? You can go in there. That works. Started. All right. Did you not get your beauty rest last night, Princess? All right. So there you go. You want to tighten that up? Let me get started. All right, there you go. So go ahead and turn that.
Got it started. Good.
You're gonna get it going a little more? A little tough to turn, not too bad. Alright, now before we get that tightened all the way, we're gonna get the second one in there. Alright. I'll let her. All right, you want to finish it?
Ooh.
All right. There we go. That's pretty easy. I mean, all she's doing is sticking it in there pretty good and tight. We'll go ahead and get these uprights installed and then we'll come back. So 2 uprights are on, tightened down pretty well. It's already starting to look like a 3D printer. Wow, step 1 done, already ready to go. Not quite. All right, so step 2. We need the M5 by 8, 2 of those, the control panel, and the power supply. So, you go ahead and take the so you can find the M5 by 8. They're in little small ones. That it? M5 by 8. All right, good. And then the control panel is over here. The control panel goes on the front.
All
right. All right, so control panel is right on here. I'll get them started and you can finish them. All right.
Yay, so
2 of those. A feather. That's weird. All right. Screw those in the rest of the way. There we go.
So started.
All right. All right. All right, so that's all there is to putting the control panel on there. And now we're going to put the power supply on. Drop it there. All right, there's your power supply. Now there's one little quick step you got to do, and it's noted in the instructions, but this power supply switches between 115 volt and 230 volts. So before you install it, you want to switch it over. If you're in the U.S. like we are, and you need the 115, switch it over to 115. That's whatever your local power supply is. And then we take the controls, the power supply, and with the plug facing out, put that down here. And which ones are we using? It's funny because they aren't listed in the instructions. I think it's the. Sides or is it the other sides? I guess we'll find out. So fours. 4x20. I think it's this one. I'm going to open those up. Like I said, the instructions are fairly thorough, but there's a few little things here and there that are left out, and this was one of them. Yeah, that looks right. Started. There's the other one there. And I'll let her finish it. A little tight. Let me finish this up. Oh. Now what are we going to be doing next?
I don't know.
All right. All right. You want to finish those up? All right, really good and tight. So, come down to step 3. And now it looks like we're going to be setting this aside. Looks like we're using part number 9, which looks like this guy here. That's the Z-axis limit switch. And then again, it's not showing us what parts we need, but we can find it here. Should be these guys here. What we're going to do is actually install the Z-axis limit switch. Oh, actually, no, the parts. Never mind. Parts are already on here. That's easy. All right. So what we're going to do, and we don't set this yet, but we're going to install it. We're going to loosen these two. And this here, this is the switch. It goes on the Z-axis here. And when it's coming down and the print head's getting near the bed, This is what stops it. This is the bottom limit for it. So that installs in the extrusion here on the front, just like this. Alright, so let's go in the front of the frame, switch facing up. And again, we can't really set the height completely yet. We can get kind of close. Let's tighten that in there. Alright, you want to tighten it? There you go. Oops. There we go. A little more. And we don't need to make that super tight yet, because we're going to have to adjust it up and down a little bit there to set our Z height properly. Alright, so that's in. Now they give a measurement of 32 millimeters from the base, but again, you're going to have to kind of fine tune that later, so it's not real critical what you do now. So now we're going to come and install the motor, the Z-axis motor, and the rod. So this is our Z-axis motor, and it's going to go on there using M4 by 18 screws. So you're going to find the 4 by 18 screws. You want to find them?
M4.
M4 by 18. Yep. All right. There's 2 of those. And we'll take those and put those in there. All right. So which tool do we need for those? We need a smaller one, I think. Yep. This one. Yep. I'll get it started and you can finish them. All right, there we go.
Okay.
Yep. Here, in the front too. All right. Sure those are good and tight. Crank them down a little bit. All right. Those you're going to want nice and tight, just because that holds the Z-axis motor on. Probably not tight enough, but I'll just double check. Yeah, that's good. Now you don't want to be real aggressive on tightening these because it is a plastic part. You got a metal screw. If you tighten it too hard, we all know who wins that battle. What happens? Plastic breaks. All right, and then looks like we're taking the Z-axis screw and we're going to insert that in there. And then I think this is the same. All right, you want to tighten that up? Tighten that. Good and tight. Oh, crank it down tight. You got it? All right, now turn on its side and do this. And tighten it a little bit more. There we go. And we want that to be good and tight there so it doesn't slip. All right, so now your Z-axis is in there. And we can turn it over. We're already done with the first page of instructions. Go on to step 5. Step 5 is going to be assembly of the, find it here. We're going to be putting together the extruder and the Y-axis, or excuse me, the X-axis. So we will clear off the table a little bit and then we'll come right back with that. So we got a little space cleared out here. We're going to do the next step of assembly, which is step 5, and we need these extrusions here. And just cut that plastic, it's a little easier. One of these is for the top there. They're pretty easy to tell apart once you get it open. to want the one that has more holes drilled in it. This one here, the shorter one, goes across the top when we're done. So we'll set that aside for now, and we'll take this one. These steps I can remember from the first time we put one of these together were, I don't want to say confusing, but they were a little more confusing than some of the other ones. So you want to kind of just keep a close eye on just how it's assembled in here, and if you need to, take a look at the pictures of the printer and all that to get everything set up the right way. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to take the assembly here. This is part number 6, and you take it, and then you take this here, and we're working from the back side of it, and the back side's got the bigger holes, and you'll see why when you go to assemble it. It actually only go on there one way, but when you go to assemble it, the holes only line up in one direction. So like if I try to put this on, this is the wrong way, it's not going to fit. So it'll only fit in this direction, which is kind of helpful. It uses M4 by 16 screws. So you're going to find the M4 by 16. All right, M4 by 16. I remember this being a little tricky. This was actually one of the steps that Charlotte had to help the instructor with, because she had smaller fingers and needed to build. But these go through these holes and then into this extrusion, and then of course they've got it drilled out here so you can access it with the, you can get the hex key in there. But they're a little tough. I found it easier just to insert these in the holes to start with, and then what size hex key do you need for that? It's this guy maybe? Yep. All right. So we'll take these, put them in there. And we got this one here. Get everything lined up, and I'll get it started with our hex key. First one started. All right. Finish that up. All right, good. All right. So that was all there was to step 5. Now step 6, we're going to take the belt. You got a belt there? Oh, there's one real quick. They kind of mentioned almost as a side note here. You need the tube connector here. This is where your filament supply is going to come in. This is the extruder motor here, and that just goes on right there. So we'll go ahead and put that in. All right, now we got the belt, and this isn't overly confusing, but it does, you're going to want to pay attention to the directions, have it set up the same way they show on here. But you're going to loop this over feed it through here. And I remember this part when we were at the workshop, Charlotte had to help with this one too, because the instructor had really big fingers and couldn't get them in there. You remember that?
Yeah.
But she got it figured out. Now, we need part number 4, which is this. Part number 5, which is, where's part number 5? All right, part number 4, 5. Oh, of course. That's part number 5 is already installed on the machine, so we need to just kind of get this closer to where we can work with it and untangle it. That's what the only things in the instructions that they aren't really overly. It's not that they're confusing. It's just that it shows part number 5, and you forget. Oh, some of the parts are already installed on the machine. So let's get this wire untangled. And be able to leave the machine here. So this is the extruder, obviously. Oh, it looks like they're including a little silicone sock on there, which is nice. They didn't used to include that. That comes in handy. Keeps your hot end nice and clean. So what we're going to do is we're going to take, and again, it's showing you which side we're working from the back. So we're going to flip it over and work from this side, and then we take this part here, slide it on this extrusion. See that? It should slide freely across there. And then we'll take this part, and it goes. There's two ways this can go, but if you look at the orientation in the book, it's pretty self-explanatory once you get it on there. And then we need the 4x16 again, which is this one. And you want to stick that one. See where the hole is? Let's pick up that. Can you get that little lock washer on there? All right, put that on there. And then put it in that hole. All right, and get it down there and get it started. And then there's your hex key. Tighten that up a little bit. All right, now this one here, same thing. Put the lock washer in there, and then it goes in that hole. You want to start it by hand a little bit, and then I'll do it. There we go. All right, and then you can finish that up. All right, so that's step 7. Got our hot end and fans mounted on this. This assembly was already pre-assembled, and we got all the bearings, everything set. On to step 8, which will be putting the belt on. All right, the belt. This here, it's the X-axis passives block. I'm not sure what a passives block is, but this will be what tensions the belt on there. So we're going to be working now from the front, and it tells you that in the instructions. You just flip it around. What will happen is this will slide into, you got to loosen these up, and this is how we get the tension on the, here's the other X, this one. All right, yep, all right. So this goes on like this, and now we got to feed the belt around there. Remember doing this before? This is a little bit difficult. It's not overly difficult. We're all actually getting really close to being done with this, believe it or not. It doesn't take too long to put one of these together, does it? Do you think this is easier than a Prusa to put together? Prusas take a while. But what doesn't this have? What's the best part of a Prusa?
Gummy bears.
Yeah, gummy bears. All the Prusa printer kits come with gummy bears. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna put the belt in here. This is the drive belt for the extruder head there, and I'm gonna flip it around so you can see it there. Hopefully, all you're doing is sliding this in the slot on here with the brass part going down. Just clips in there like that, and I'll actually let her do the other one. It's not hard at all. It runs underneath these wheels, and I found the easiest way to do that is just to take them and just like run it over. You can push all day and it'll eventually get there, but if you just run it over, it slides right through. Feed that belt, and of course the ribbed part is going to go down, and if you try not to get a twist in it. If you do, just untwist it. It's nothing big. The rib part's going down. I'll take it here. You bring it around the outside of the extruder wheel, or the tensioning wheel there, and bring it back. And see that little slot in there? Alright, you can get it in there. Alright, so bend it up, push it, when we get it bent up, push it in there. Alright. I'll hold it. You can do it. Just go ahead and take that. Push it in. Almost got it. Yeah, this one's a little tougher than the other side just because there's a little tiny bit of tension. It's not tight yet. Alright, so we get that installed. And now what we do, we want to tighten that belt because now it's loose. So we tighten that by pushing out here. Push that out, and we don't need to get it super tight, but we don't want any slack in there. And we just tighten that down, and we can adjust this later if we need to when we start printing. There's certain things that will come up in the printing that are fixed by tightening that belt. But it should run fairly smoothly. Shouldn't have any hang-ups or hold-ups or anything. The bearing should run smoothly. You try to feel nice and smooth. Yep, good job. So that's step 8. It's assembled completely now. The x-axis is assembled. So now we're going to put it on the printer. So we'll move the printer back over here. This step isn't really that tricky, but it's you got to get a couple things lined up at the same time, so it gets a little, I guess, interesting. I like to loosen this up a little bit. This little brass up there, that's where the x-axis gets power from. So what we're going to do, all right, are you ready? So we're going to drop this on here. We got to get the wheels lined up on this side, the wheels lined up on this side, and then at the same time, we got to get this lined up in that slot. And I found it easiest to just take this here, and you want to do it, you can turn this rod. So reach down here, turn this, and just lower it into place. All the wheels are lined up. All right, it's on. There we go. Now this should also run. Now move it up and down. Just grab it and move it up and down a little bit. This whole thing. It should be relatively free moving. And when you turn this, there shouldn't be any real resistance to it at all. So that's on. That was step 9. Now these need to be tensioned again. They need to be tightened up a little bit. And I warned you not to overly tighten them. So I just get them down to where they're pretty tight, but not. Yeah, you don't need to crank down on by any means. You can adjust all this stuff later. So if that's binding, sometimes just a little bit of a loosening there. If your z-axis is binding, sometimes you need to loosen those up a little bit. It's nice and easy to do later, though. All right, step 10, we're putting the top on. So we need the 5x25. Those are the ones that we accidentally got out earlier. So that's these 4 here. And then this is the top piece. So are you able to reach the top of this? You may not be able to. Put that. All right, the other 5x25 down there. That one there. All right, there should be 4 of them. Oops. All right. All right, we're almost done. It's already starting to look like a 3D printer, isn't it?
No.
No, what does it look like?
It looks like an elephant.
An elephant. It's a weird looking elephant. Is it Dumbo?
No. It's Ender.
Ender elephant. So we've got two Enders now. We got Stella, and Stella is pretty much a stock Ender 3. Not a whole lot of changes. We printed some cool tool holders and things, which we'll definitely have projects on here for this printer. And oh, you just named this one Sheila. Okay, so this one has officially been named Sheila. I guess they're both girls then.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to we're gonna do some modifications to one of the Enders to kind of make it, we'll call it a super Ender. We'll have some parts on it to make it a better machine. So are we gonna do that to Stella or Sheila?
Sheila.
So Sheila, okay, so Stella's gonna stay like a factory Ender, and then this will turn into the super Ender, I guess. So over time, we'll make some small changes and modifications to Sheila. There's a lot. That's one of the nice things about the Ender 3 is there's a lot of modifications that you can. A lot of them you can just download on Thingiverse and print, and a lot of them, you know, are things you buy. Some of them aren't all that expensive, but a lot of them result in, you know, much better performance and just turn them into much better machines. So we're on to the next step already. Step 11 is assembling the spool holder. This is the last actual assembly step on the printer, which is kind of exciting. So we got the M5 by 8 is what we're looking for. So let's find the M5 by 8. Can you find M5 by 8? M5 by 8. Oh, so they're already open somewhere.
Huh?
M5 by 8. Yep, those are those little ones from before. Yep, and then we need the T-nuts, the M5 T-nuts. So you see a little package with the M5 T-nuts in them? I think it's right there. All right, so open those up. And then we'll put the spool holder on. This spool holder works pretty well. There's a real simple modification that Stella has on it that extends the feed down a little bit, because this one of the things I guess this is kind of known for is it, because of the angle that comes down, it wears out the part. There's a plastic part on the Ender that the filament rubs up against, and over time it kind of wears out. So, all right, so that's going to work. Put that in there. Start the T-nut, and in a minute we're going to plug in all the wires. Isn't that exciting?
No.
That's the fun part. Then you know what? After that happens,
What?
we level the bed, and then we start the first print. Are we going to do the dog print from the card?
The doggy.
Yep. The Ender dog. All right.
I want to call it Buddy.
Buddy. That's the Prusa dog.
I know, but I want to do the Prusa dog.
I wonder what
Buddy.
the Chinese name for Buddy is. Maybe someone.
Butter.
Butter. Maybe one of your subscribers from China can tell us.
Is this a subscriber from China?
There are. And they can tell us, and maybe they'll put it in the comments for you. So
Blah, blah.
Joseph Prusa, the reason she's saying it is Joseph Prusa's dog on the that comes as a test print on the Prusa printers, his name is Buddy. And she wants to know what the Chinese name for Buddy is, since this comes from
Butter?
built in China. I don't think it's butter. Maybe it is. All right.
You never know.
So that's on there. That completes the actual mechanical assembly part of the printer. Now we just got to plug in the electrics, which is step 12. And this isn't really that difficult either. So we're going to turn it around here, even closer here for this part. This is the actual electrical the assembly, all the connections and plugins and all that. Not overly difficult, just a good idea to make sure you work through it step at a time so you don't forget anything. Step 12, you know, they're all visual instructions again. It has you start out, everything's labeled fairly well. So what you're going to do, you're going to say, the first one here, we're looking for an E. So that's the extruder, which is up here. The extruder's connector, where it comes down, everything's going to be labeled on here, E. Okay? So we're going to take this over here. This connects it to the control board inside here. And then we're going to take it over here and plug it in. And it can only go in the connector one way. So as long as you get the E, you got the right wire, plug it into the right place, you should be good. Also on this kind of bundle of wiring here is X. That's the X-axis motor, which is here. So we're going to go ahead and plug that in. Some of these are just in awkward places, so they're a little bit difficult to get. And again, all right. And then this one here, that's the X limit switch. I remember this one. I think I'm going to have Charlotte do, because this was the other one that guy needed help with, because it's way inside there. Remember that one?
Oh, I see.
Yep. So I'm going to plug that in, and it's going to go, it only goes one way, so let me make sure we got it lined up early. Right, at least on the outside, so like that. Alright, so I'll help you feed it in there. And can you reach in and push that in there? Alright, move further. Push it till it snaps. Alright, I think that's in there. You can see that's way up inside there, so that's why it's a little tough to get. You gotta have little tiny fingers, so you have to be dainty like the princess. Alright, so then this one here, that's the Z, so that goes in there. You want to put that in?
In there.
That's the Z-axis motor. So there we go. Go ahead and put that in there.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, I'll help you a little bit. It's a little tough. Alright, go ahead and snap that in there. Just push it straight in. Until it snaps. Alright, now this is the Z-axis limit switch. So we're going to come over here and plug in. See where that plugs in? That guy right there.
Almost there.
Alright, now we've got the power connector. Here's our power connector. That connects the power supply to everything else. And then we got this long cable here, and that actually goes up to the control panel on the front. Now, this is our control panel, and you got to pay a little bit of attention here. The control panel plug goes on to the front. It's and it tells you on here EXP3. So you come on here, and there's three identical looking outputs on here, and you want the third one that's labeled on there pretty plainly EXP3. So we'll plug that in, and that is the last step of assembly. So now comes the fun.
Nope.
Plug in the power,
Nope.
and we're going to hit the switch for the first time and see what happens. Are you ready? You want to do it? Power switch is right there. Oh my gosh, it came on. It says ender.
I get it.
Now let's see what happens.
You take this screen off.
Yeah, I'm going to take the...
Down. Now it can feel our fingers.
All right, it's come to life. Now the next step, we're going to be doing a little bit of setup here. We're going to go ahead and get the bed leveled, and then we'll start the first test print. We got it assembled and it powered up properly. We're going to start the process of leveling. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to home the printer, and that'll kind of, first of all, it's going to check, make sure all the stepper motors are working properly, and limit switches are in the right position. So I'm going to go to auto home. So far the X and Y are working just fine. We'll check the Z. Now remember, we may have to adjust the Z axis a little bit. All right, so we're fairly close. Our bed, I've got it cranked way down. These wheels here are how you adjust the level of the bed. And when you home it, what I like to do is to adjust my Z, and people do it a little bit differently, but this has always just worked for me. You get the bed to where, when you send it home, you want it, the bed, look at the adjustment screws on the bottom, and adjust them to where they're about halfway through their travel, so you got a lot of adjustment both up and down. Then you're gonna come over here, and at that point, I want my nozzle to kind of just contacting the bed. So we're a little bit high on our Z. I'm going to lower it. We need this size? No, we need the bigger one. This part does require a little bit of, I guess you would say, adult help, but Charlotte could probably manage this if she wanted to. So I'm going to lower that just a touch. Open those back up. All right, so now let's rehome it. I think that's, a lot of people have a lot of issues with the ender and getting the bed leveled properly. And honestly, I think a lot of it has to do with setting that Z initially. It's a little lower than I would want it, ideally. So I'll disable those steppers and crank that up. Raise it just a touch. And we'll try that again. That's about right. The Z-axis is dialed in pretty well. We're going to go ahead and level the bed. This is the most important step to getting a really good print. The Princess is starting to get a little bit tired here, so it's almost nappy time. She needs to get her beauty rest. You know, we're on an hour and a half, 2 hours total time here, so it's getting kind of the limits for someone to sit here and do this. It gets a little boring, so we'll get it finished up here and start the print. First thing I'm going to do, I'm home, so we're all the way down on the bottom of the Z, we're, you know, at the limit switch on the Z-axis. Come here to prepare. I'm going to disable my steppers. That allows me to move my axes freely. I'm just going to do a quick check here, see if I'm contacting the bed anywhere, and if I am, Lower these down a little bit here, but I'm not touching the bed anywhere, which is good. We want that to be, the extruder to be fairly close to the bed, but not touching it. So the next step of leveling, we're going to drop this axis down to where there's a little tiny space between the print bed and the extruder tip. So what we're going to do is use a piece of paper, and she knows how to do this pretty well. We're going to put this piece of paper between the nozzle and the print bed, and we're going to raise the print bed by turning the hand wheel until it's as close, basically, as the thickness of the sheet of paper. We're going to pull this through there, and we're going to start feeling just a little bit of resistance. So I'll turn the first knob since it's over here, and she can tell me when she starts to feel resistance. So go ahead and move it back and forth. Yep, there we go. That's a little too tight because I can't push it back, so I'm going to loosen it into where... Now what I'm feeling is I'm feeling it just dragging both surfaces. And that works pretty well. So now we go up here to the second corner, and you want to turn the wheel this time? Good, you turn the wheel. Down there. So you're going to go, yep, that way. To the right to make it tight, remember? And... oh, starting to feel it. Alright. Now turn it back to the left just a little tiny bit. A little bit more. It's kind of tight. Alright, you want to feel it? See if it feels right? Or you think that's maybe a little too tight still? Feels good? Alright, so now we're going to go to the back corner now and do the same thing. So go ahead and turn the knob down there on the bottom. Alright, just feel up. Alright, that's too far. That's alright. You can always turn it back. How's that feel? A little loose, huh? What about there? How's that feel?
What, right here?
Yeah. Good?
I think it's a little too loose.
A little too loose?
Okay.
Let's try it. Alright, that's better. How about that? Better? Better? Okay. Now we'll do this last corner. And that, I can reach that better than you can, so I'll turn it. Oh, too tight already.
No, I think I have
Too loose? Alright, keep going. I'm turning a little bit. How's that? That's close there. And now we're going to come back to the middle. The middle is actually the most important because that's where you're actually going to be printing. And that's probably a little too tight. So what we're going to do, we're going to run through all four corners again, just really quickly. Yeah, see this corner's tightened up again. That usually happens. Usually you got to run through all four corners twice. Sometimes I just go ahead and run all four corners. See how tight that is?
I think it's good right here.
Right there? Alright. So move this over here. How we look good? I think that's too tight, right? Too tight? Yeah. Alright. So how about that? Too loose?
Right there.
Alright. I'll come back here. Alright. How's that feel? That looks pretty good. I think that's pretty good there. And then we'll check this fourth corner. And what do you think about that corner? Maybe a touch too tight? Just a little bit?
No, it's a tiny bit loose.
Too tiny bit loose? Okay, so should we check the middle now? And what's the middle like? Oh, and that middle feels good now. Now I'm going to do a real quick check, because it doesn't take just a second. Do all four corners again. It feels maybe a tiny bit too tight, but not too much.
Maybe.
So, the bed is level, and we can go ahead and start a print. I'm going to go ahead and start preheating it, just so we can get going a little faster here. I'm going to go to preheat PLA, and what that's going to do is it's going to preheat our extruder and then also preheat the print bed. That's going to bring it up to 185 and I think 40. I can't remember what the preset is for this on the bed. Now, a little bit of a word of warning here. While it's nice that they include a little sample pack of filament, this is not enough filament to print the test model that's on the card. So if you try to print the Creality test model with this, you're going to get about a third of the way through and it's going to run out of filament. So we've got a full spool of Hatchbox PLA here. We're going to use that. I'll show you the loading process a little closer here. It's got to get warmer before we can actually load it. In the meantime, we get the SD card that came with it. Do you have the SD card? It's a little white thing that came with it. Fall on the floor. I think our SD card's on the ground. We'll take a look for it. Yep, there it is down there. So there's a test model on here of it's the Creality dog, basically. You want to sit back on your stool? There you go. And we'll just run that. It's already pre-sliced, ready to go, so it's nice and easy. We're almost up to temperature already on the extruder, so we'll be able to do that. The micro SD card goes in the slot here on the front. Now, feeding the filament in is pretty simple. Just turn to the side here. Charlotte can do this. She needs a little bit of help sometimes squeezing that spring, but in interest of going a little faster here since she needs to get to her royal nap, I'm going to show you. On this particular printer, I've always found that having it cut at a little bit of an angle seems to feed better instead of having a straight flush cut. And all you're going to do is you're going to squeeze this little lever here, insert the filament in there. It goes around. There's a wheel back there that's going to squeeze between, and then go into this tube here, the Bowden tube. There's a little lip in there you got to kind of force it past, and that's where it gets hung up sometimes. Try cutting that out. Sometimes, for whatever reason, I just can't get it started right offhand. Other times it just slides right in there. I know one of the more common upgrades is there's an aluminum bracket for up here that seems to work a little better. Let's try that again. There we go. There we go. And for some reason, it's just... Now I like to just manually push it all the way in there, just to get that going. Now, I'm going to raise my Z-axis up a little bit here. Yeah, you know what I'll do? I'll just go ahead and disable the steppers and turn the control so we can see it start to extrude the material from here. Now you can already see it starting to melt out the end of the extruder down there. And I'm going to go ahead and feed it, move the extruder. And you can see our material oozing out down there. So we're good to go. Now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and start this print. So we'll come back here to the main menu again. And then we're going to come down here. Initialize SD card. think we got it put in there. There we go. Print from SD. Testdog.g code. So we're going to hit enter.
I forgot what the test dog is.
Take that extra little filament. And that should be the ender dog. So what it's going to do, it's going to go ahead and the extruder's preheating to 185. It's already about there. And then it's going to preheat the bed to 27 degrees. And the bed is not heating up, so we got a little bit of a problem with our machine here. So I'm going to stop and we will take a look at what's going on here with the bed, and I'll come back later once we got everything working. All right, so it turns out it was actually a pretty easy fix. First thing to look for with these machines, if something's not working like that, is that there's just a bad connection. You can see it is preheating now. If you open this up, and the reason I'm filming this is so you can see what's inside here. If you open the control board, in the control, you got your DC power coming in there, and then your extruder. These are the output wires going to the extruder, and then these are the output wires going to the heated bed. And one of these connectors just wasn't plugged in all the way. It was just a matter of it came out during shipping or wasn't assembled properly. So that's all that needed to be done. Obviously, you know, I bought this from Amazon, so if I wanted to, I could have just boxed it up and sent it back, and they would have sent me a new one. But often it's a real easy fix like that. These connectors will become unplugged. They glue most of them, but sometimes these will come unplugged, and it's easy to just pop it open and do the fix yourself. So that's one of the nice things about this printer is it's easy to go. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back together again, and we'll try getting that first print started. All right, should be in business now. That was quick. Actually, it took 25-30 minutes or so for me to dig in there, find out what that little problem was, and get it out. That's actually, you know, it's kind of a good thing that happened, because it kind of, you know, it'll remind you that, you know, you're dealing with a relatively inexpensive machine here, and relatively, I don't want to say poor quality of build, but they're built in high volume without a whole lot of quality control. So, you know, you're going to run into some issues here and there, and little stuff like that. You know, it was a connection that came off in shipping, and that happens. And it's nice to be able to pop it open, fix it real quick, and send it, and you know, be on your way. Like I mentioned before, you know, I did buy it from Amazon, so had I wanted to, I could have just boxed it up and sent it back. I've actually done that with a couple of units before. I kind of feel like, you know, if I'm buying the unit, it should work when it arrives. I shouldn't have to do a whole lot of extra tinkering and messing with it just to get it going. But that's a little bit of a problem. People who buy them off of, say, Banggood or AliExpress or one of those, you know, just to save a couple dollars. You know, yeah, you might save $20, but if you have a problem, it will ship to you from China, and odds are, you know, first of all, you're not going to be able to just pop it in the box, send it right back, and, you know, repair parts, they will send them to you under the warranty, but again, they're probably going to be shipped from China. It's going to take a while. So that's why I always recommend buying from Amazon. Had I wanted to, I could have just boxed it up and sent it back, and would have sent me a new one. But all right, so hopefully everything will be good to go here, and we're going to go ahead and print our test dog. Yep, and it appears to be working this time. I already had the extruder preheated, and now our bed is warming up as well. I can already feel it warming a little bit there. Take a few seconds, I guess, to get up to full temperature. It's a pretty quick printer for warming up. It has a 24-volt system, which really speeds up the process of warming up both the extruder hot in there and the heated bed. Of course, this is the stock ender that had been named Sheila by the Princess, and the Princess isn't in her royal chambers right now. She's resting, but she's decided that we're going to upgrade this one one of the first upgrades we're going to do. I'm going to put probably a different build surface on there. We're going to try a couple different ones out. We'll do some experiments with them. There's a few I really like that are out there. Some of the flexible ones. All of them removable. Removal is important. All right, it's heating up. The bed's up to 50 degrees now, so now it's bringing the hot end up to 200 degrees. We loaded the filament at 185, and it will print at that probably, but I find it better. 200 is a better printing temperature. I usually print even a little warmer than that, depending on the filament. We'll get to that later. This isn't so much about printing in this video as it is the actual build itself. All right, almost there. 199. All right, 200. The printer has come to life. So, what will happen? Got a string hanging off there. Well, we have it ease into the bed. That's always good. I've printed a couple of these dogs. They're fairly long print. I don't recall offhand how long they take, but it does take a little while. We'll sit here and watch through the first layer or two, and then we'll come back later and see what it looks like later. Well, it's printing and it's sticking, so far this is a good print. We'll come back a little later and see how it's going. We're about an hour and 20 minutes or so into this print here. It's the first print on the Ender 3 we just built, and everything's looking good. Coming out as it's supposed to, and looks like it's doing pretty well. Closer look here. That's what we got going on. Doing a pretty good job on the test file there. Looks like it's about a third of the way done. We'll come back later and hopefully have a completed print. We are back. We have a finished print now. Originally we had taped this coming off the build plate and removing the supports, but unfortunately, due to technical difficulties, that didn't happen. It didn't record. So we're going to have to show you the result afterwards. The support printed really nicely. Everything came off really nicely without leaving any scarring on the print. The print itself came out really well. 5 hours and 31 minutes of print time, so it was a pretty long print. That's the length of time for this initial print, and it turned out pretty successful. Nice, relatively even layer lines, all that fun stuff. So, what do you think about the first print? Think it turned out pretty good?
I'm pretty sure about that.
Yeah, it's a pretty good print.
It's a cute little dog.
Cute little doggy. Are you gonna be able to print lots more doggies on this one?
Maybe.
Okay.
But they might be a little too long, so I might not be able to print so much on one day.
Yeah, we can print other things other than doggies. But we're gonna want
like unicorns.
Yeah,
I love unicorns.
But it went together well. I'd say roughly it was a little under 2 hours total build time, which isn't too bad. I have put a couple of these together, so you may take a little while longer the first one you do, but it's not bad at all as long as you follow the instructions. They're nice, simple instructions. That's kind of why we chose this as our pick for the kind of the mid-range printer, because it gives you a lot of features, good accuracy, ease of use, all that fun stuff at a pretty good price. So, as we mentioned before, this printer here is going to be upgraded a little bit. We're going to make some changes to it. Some of the changes are things you can print right off the internet. We're going to find them on Thingiverse, and of course we'll have links to all that fun stuff. And some of this stuff is stuff that we're gonna print on that we aren't going to be able to print right off the internet. Some of them are upgrades that you order, but there are a few things that make these from pretty good printers. They make them really good printers. So we'll eventually be doing some of that now. As you can see, it's getting kind of late here, and the Printcess is tired, so we're gonna call that a video. And encourage you to. Do you think everybody should be able to build it under 3?
But I don't think babies should.
Well, definitely not babies, but definitely anybody with their parents helping them could probably be able to do it. Right?
Because it's some of the stuff, like the corners of these, it can hurt the kids.
Yeah.
So you have to be kind of careful about it.
But it's pretty easy to put together, isn't it?
And sometimes, like, little kids could just, like, chew on the screws, which is bad.
Yeah, that would be
And
bad.
gross.
But do you think it's pretty easy to put together?
Yeah.
Yeah. How many of them have you put together?
I would rather say one.
One? But you've done two. Because you put Stella together too, remember?
Yeah, I was talking about just that.
Oh, before this one? So two,
Yeah.
including this one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So this is the second. This is the second one I've built with
Mhm.
that.
Do you think it was easier to put together than a Prusa?
Yes, because it's mostly built.
Yeah.
So it takes us like it only has like 12 steps, and then
Yeah. The Prusa had a lot of steps, didn't it?
yeah. Also, the Prusa's a little better because it comes with gummy bears.
Gummy bears, yeah.
I always like the I would rather say the red, or I don't know the other color,
Yeah.
but I do like only like two of the colors, and I like to eat them together.
Yep. All right, well, so you heard it right there. The Prusa's better because it comes with gummy bears, but the Ender 3 is a lot easier to put together. And that's true. It is easier, faster to put together. So if you're thinking about an Ender 3, but you're hesitating because you think that you aren't going to be capable of assembling it, don't worry about it because, as you can see, most of the things with some assistance, a 7-year-old could do. And I'd say a kid that was a little bit older, 11, 12, depending on their technical ability, could probably do it completely without their parents as long as they have some kind of technical know-how and sense to them. So, Ender 3, good printer. Go buy one.
I think scientists would really do this very well.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for watching our video. And you want to go join our Facebook group if you haven't already. And make sure you subscribe to this channel because the Printcess will have a lot more videos coming out soon. We got a lot of prints to make, a lot of printing to do. So, and she
really excited.
loves printing. So,
And I love Stella.
yep. All right. Thanks for watching.